Hello everyone, Philly Pipe Smoker here. Before I get started, I'm going to do a real quick tobacco review because this is the first bowl I've smoked of this tobacco, and give you a story about my dad. First, I'm smoking my Peterson Meerschaum, and this is in tribute to the tobacconist Eric, who also smokes a Peterson Meerschaum, gifted to him by Keith Graham. This pipe is from the 70s. My father and mother went to Ireland on a trip and came back, and they brought this pipe back for me. And see if I can give you a close up. You see the band's a little bit worn, but it came colored. It's definitely darkened over time, but it came colored, so it's I guess not a true meerschaum in a sense. I always thought it was possibly ground up meerschaum that they mixed with some epoxy or something and formed a pipe. I don't know, but it smokes really well. I don't smoke it that often, just because it's so dear to me, and I'm afraid to drop it or break it. But it's a great pipe. And in it, I'm smoking a new tobacco. Never tried it. Actually went on tobaccoreviews.com and only 4 reviews. I think the latest one was 2011. I'm not sure if it's just not a very popular tobacco or whatever, but it's Esoterica Scarborough. I've had it for about a year or so in my cellar. See if I can give you a... It's already rubbed. See if you can see what that looks like inside. Light Virginias, I believe, which are stoved a little bit, pressed a little bit. And I'll tell you, it almost has a pineapple-y liqueur type of smell, which doesn't come through in the taste of the tobacco. Yeah, I just can't place that smell, but it's not a bad smell by any stretch, but it's different. So I will let you know, probably not on this pipe because it's my first one, and it seems to be very mild, but I hope when I die, I'm able to see how everything operates. And what I mean by that is, we've probably all had experiences with deja vu where you dream something, maybe months, years later, that particular exact situation will come up. You know what's going to be said. It's happened to me a few dozen times. The quirk I have is I have to change. So, especially if it was a bad outcome or an argument ensued or whatever, I always change the words. The first one I remember it ever happening to me, I was in high school. We decided to cut school. And my buddy and I got in this car and we took off, and we didn't know where we were going, what we were doing. And about 10:30 in the morning, we're driving down this main road toward school. And there's this girl walk into our local Catholic high school, and I could see her in the distance. And I turned to my friend and I said, she's carrying 2 books. I knew the colors of the books. Pocketbook, because I didn't have backpacks back then. Not that I remember anyway. And we pulled up on her, and it was exactly that scenario. So I've had that before. I'm sure most of you guys have had that as well. About 2 months ago, I got this overwhelming urge while I'm surfing the web to look up an old friend who I have not seen since high school. Best friend in junior high school, or middle school as they call it today. And then we kind of lost touch in high school and went our separate ways. A month to the day, when I searched for him, he passed away. So I think that there's some force out there, some network, some intelligence. Obviously, I believe in God. I'm a Christian, but maybe maybe your life is predestined for you. Maybe everything is laid out ahead of you beforehand. Um, but why would I search for him a month to the day after he died? Yesterday, I had the same urge to look up my dad's ship during World War II. It was LST 496, called Landing Ship Tank, also known as Large Slow Target, because apparently they were slow, they were large, and they were made an easy target. On D-Day in June, on the anniversary of D-Day, I will go into more details on what happened as he participated in the D-Day landing invasion using or on board LST-496. But yesterday, April 28th, General Eisenhower decided they needed to do a training run. So I guess over a period of maybe a week, they would send out so many ships at a time, and they would do a pretend landing. And I guess they picked this beach. I think it's called, in fact, I have it over here. At least I thought I did. Slapton Sands Beach. I guess they evacuated the town, used the beach for landing exercises. So, and I assume that they went out at nighttime because they were going to land first thing in the morning. So I guess everything had gone well the first few times that all the ships went out, and now it was my dad's turn. So they went out. They were escorted by a couple of Royal Navy ships, destroyer I think, and a couple other ships, and they went out loaded with men and equipment. If you Google LSTs, you'll see how big they are. I mean, they carry 150 crew. And then what they do is when they come up on the beach, the whole bow of the ship just opens. And then you can drive the tanks and the men can get off. It's not the LSDs, the small little ones, that would just hold crew. These ships were large. They would hold tanks, cranes, whatever was needed to go on cannons, I guess, whatever. So they proceed out, and I guess the landing was supposed to be 7:30 in the morning. Well, during the night, 9 U-boats found them. And I guess they saw them on the radar, assumed they were friendly ships in the beginning. And then they fired torpedoes at one of the LSTs. The torpedo went into the LST but did not explode. So that was basically started to sink. It shot another one, and that particular ship exploded. I guess panic ensued for most of the guys. The U-boats used smoke in those days to camouflage where they were or when they were going to escape. So I guess they must have put out a bunch of the smoke and then turned around and hightailed it out of there. So now you have a bunch of LSTs circling around, shooting at something they couldn't even see. And unfortunately, they were shooting upon themselves. Over 900 men lost their lives that night. It was the largest loss of the war up to that day, other than Pearl Harbor. They were ordered not to pick up the survivors. Thankfully, one of the ships turned around, disobeyed orders, and went back, and I think they only got a half a dozen men or so. They weren't able to get a lot. They then proceeded on to the landing exercise, and then turned around and came back, and all those men were taken off. They weren't allowed to talk to anybody. It had to be totally top secret. I guess when they were radioing for help, because it was a top secret training exercise, none of the radio operators in the area responded. Until and I think the code word was T4, until somebody said T4, and then they realized what the problem was, and they ended up responding. The help, I guess, was too late at that point because the ships had gone, but just a tremendous loss of life. And I think only one LST went down. The other one they were able to tow back. None of this, by the way, my father told me. It wasn't until later in life, and he died in 1986 at young 62. It wasn't until he was in his late 50s that he would even tell me anything about the war. He didn't tell me about this exercise. I assume because it was so devastating to these guys to be firing amongst yourselves, to be firing on yourselves. So I did all research after the fact and found all this out. Everything's been declassified. I guess all the records are available. So if you have a chance to, and you're a World War II buff or naval buff or history buff, take a look at it. I think it's either called Operation Tiger or Exercise Tiger. There's plenty of websites out there. A couple of them are kind of goofy. You have to pay to read different things. Wikipedia is one, and the U.S. Navy has its own website, which has some of the records as well. So, but anyway, more to come on D-Day. But I just think it's odd that overwhelming sense for me to research it again yesterday happened, and it was the 69th anniversary yesterday. So they actually have a ceremony every year over in New Jersey, which is not far from me, maybe 60, 70 miles. So you can bet next year I will certainly go. They lay a wreath in the ocean for the men. For the 7th anniversary, I certainly would want to be there. So, back to Scarborough. It's a very light tobacco. It almost smells cased in the bag. I don't think it is. There's no mention anywhere that I can find that it's a cased tobacco. It's a pleasant smoke. Has a pleasant aroma. Just everything's very mild. It's going to definitely take some more smoking before I pronounce whether I like it or not, as it did with Stonehaven. I opened Stonehaven. I think it took me 2-3 months before I would even smoke it because I was afraid to. I love it now. I have to smoke it in a small bowl because of the nicotine levels kind of high, so I smoke a little bit at a time. But it's got some really deep, rich, earthy flavors, which I have said before I love. In Marlin Flake and Generation 4 tobacco, that earthiness, that fruit cake, the dried fruits, and Christmas spices, almost mulled. It's delicious. So anyway, sorry to keep rambling on. I wanted to keep this to 5 minutes, and obviously I did not succeed. So thank you guys. All the best.